Good morning. It is 11 a.m. on Father's Day Sunday, and really been a nice day, isn't it? As such, uh, wishing Happy Father's Day to myself and my three daughters, and from my three daughters, I suppose, and yeah, my seven grandchildren. And my wife always kind of celebrates, even though I say I'm not your father. And I hope that you're having good memories of your dad, and if nothing else, but certainly celebrating Father's Day in with the people whom you would like to celebrate it with. Enough said. Okay, now this is what we're going to call the content video. Now, I could ramble on and do a whole lot of material with you, but I'm going to, as I said 1,000 times, we're going to do this in chunks to walk you through how to get that assignment done. The only thing, forgive me for treating you as if you're in the seventh grade, you really can't sit back and count the flowers. You can't do a tortoise and the hare thing on this, if you remember that fairy tale, because if you do that, it will the tortoise will win. I'm sorry. Yeah, the tortoise will win and the hare will lose. The rabbit will lose. You can't just say, "Oh, I'll knock this out in a night." It's just not going to happen. Or if it does happen, it won't be a very good race that you will have run. That's as much as I can say. And in certain senses, I'm actually overusing this exercise to give you skills that will thread through the rest of the course in any number of other ways. So they've all kind of come together with this. Synthesize is the fancy word to work through this. So the muscles you acquire along the way in an ordinary course would have contributed to this in a more in a less compressed way, but that's what it is. And it's not a complaint, it's just an observation as such. So I said yesterday, just in case you look at this video before you look at the content video, I did a pretty lengthy content video yesterday. I forget which chapters they were, but it actually will take us well past what we did, where we kind of began last week, well through this week's material, and more likely than not into the following. Because as I said, these premises in my mind spiral together. And as I know, I've also said, there's not a lot of difference between being a district superintendent or being a principal or a chair. It's a matter of degree. It's not necessarily a matter of difference in recognizing the kinds of nuances of leadership that they both require, especially in the 21st century sets of challenges that you all recognize now without being necessarily being leaders right now. So with that all together, I just feel that the skills you're going to acquire here and demonstrate to me by way of mastery, and I'll add a few things along the way with this, just so you know. One thing I'm going to do, make a note to myself, I'm going to set up a discussion section for this APA assignment that you're going to continue to add to each week. You don't put anything there, I'm not grading it. I will read it, but I'm not going to grade it. If you put something up there that I can respond to, I will. Certainly, I'll respond to you in emails or any other way you would like to talk to me. I've said that to you many times, and more will come. But more importantly, I want other people in your class to see what you're thinking about, so that they can either piggyback off you, model from you, or contribute to helping you clarify the issues that you need to take a look at. Now, I'm writing a book myself, another book with a different editor. The woman, the smartest person I think I've ever met. I'm very intimidated by her. I spend a lot of time mentoring dissertation students, and I'm not used to being mentored at my age. And this woman is giving me a lesson in editoring. Editoring? I guess that's a new word I just made up. Yeah, she's unbelievable. And with that premise, she's given me one perspective that I kind of knew in the back of my bald head for a long time, way back in the back of my bald head, in the back of my head time, where I'm smiling out of chagrin, realizing that what she said, I should have realized when I was 5. rather than 5 as such. And what she basically said is that I often will write over people's heads. And I know that I do that, and I don't know if I do it because I want to show off how my big words, or if my mind doesn't necessarily simplify things enough to make things more simple for people to realize. But I've done that pretty much from forever. And she's kind of wiggling her finger at me lately and saying, you have to write to the audience that this book is intended to. It's very hard for me to do. And so what you need to do is realize the audience in this case is me, as the so-called expert about this, and me and your colleagues who are not experts, but are eager to help each other. And we should count on that in some certain senses more than counting on me to help you walk through this. Something else I wanted to say about that, it'll come back to me in a moment. Give me 3 seconds, maybe it'll pop back up into the old brain. Drawing a blank. It'll come to me, and I'll stop everything and bring it up again. Writing over your head, writing to me. I give up. Lately, I've been doing a lot of those I give up things. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Now, this is where I go way over your head. I go up on top of the Epcot Global Earth, whatever they call that ball behind me. Here it comes. Is that I forgot it again. Oh, the word that keeps bouncing up in front of me is existential. That's probably not the right word. Let's go with metacognitive. I know you've heard that word probably more times than you wanted to hear it. Along the way, as instructors, as teachers yourself, or as counselors, in fact, counselors are metacognitive. Here's another word to work with you: reflective. The beginning piece of this, particularly, is existential / reflective / metaphysical / metacognitive. Now, metacognitive, as you know, means you think about your thinking. When I run a doctoral student through her dissertation process, I encourage them to write a journal about writing the dissertation. Very few of them listen to me. I don't require it. But those who do always come back and say, it helped me reflect, helped me realize where I was going left instead of right, going up instead of down, recognize what mistakes I was making. And so it's difficult for leaders to be reflective. Now, that's kind of crazy if you think about it. And because if a leader can't be reflective, then how can his organization be reflective to consider the issues and things that come at you, to boil them down to the bottom of the beaker and see what's really down there in the bottom, to address those issues, to address those root causes, which is the word I'm going to use a lot today. And yet you need to do that. Now, here we go. So what I'm going to do today is really 2 things, and they are connected. I'm going to call it phase 1. But before I do that, write that down before I forget it. Phase 1. I want to bring up the actual syllabus again and just highlight the expectations of the actual assignment. And so I'm going to share the screen. That's not it. Where is it? I'm not going to share the screen. I'm not going to use that. Well, I know why. I hit the wrong button. Here we go. Now I'm going to share the screen. I've been doing Zoom for longer than any of you ever heard of Zoom. It's a long story, actually. I'm kind of laughing because it's a little silly. And yet, even now, I still get thrown by Zoom expectations, but we have it now. This is the syllabus, and these are the 4 assignments. There's 5, I think, that you're responsible for. I'm pleased to see that several of you have just went forward. You've already sent me the interviews, or your summaries of your boards of education reviews. And I haven't looked at the discussions the last couple of days, presuming that they're continuing to pile up. Not to worry, I'll come back to that maybe before the week is out, but certainly before the Wednesday. All right, but as I said, this was the biggie, and let's talk about it. So here we are now. We are in part one, where it's segment, but it's really can't be broken down into lots of other issues. So let's just highlight this for the moment. I don't think I can change the color on this because it's a PDF. So I'll just highlight it for the moment. And you know this already. You select a topic, an area, an issue or concern about your district that you believe needs to be initiated, improved, and modified. I don't keep a tab on who sends me emails about this and who don't, but I don't think all of you have sent me your idea. The majority, but not all of you, and you know if you have not. Don't dilly-dally. Do not dilly-dally, because it's not just a matter of sending me a word and saying attendance. That's not a problem. It's a topic, but we don't know what you're talking about when you say attendance. And by the way, the person who offered that up, I'm not knocking you, because you've done a nice job in working with me about the issue we're about to address more specifically. You're just the first one that came up. Now somebody else said discipline. Okay, what is it about discipline? What is it about attendance? So the topic is the topic, but the topic's got to be, I'll use a simple phrase, and then I'll use a fancier word. I'll use the fancy word first. It's got to be parsed. Parsed is an old-fashioned word for slice and dice, broken down, examined for its pieces and its parts, and then brought back together again. And so, yes, you can give me a topic about discipline, about curriculum, achievement gaps. Somebody said that, and I completely agreed with the premise. It's not like I disagree with anything anyone has said, but in most cases, I've come back to you and said, well, what about X, Y, Z? Tell me what it is that you're thinking about. And that's where things begin to wander. All right, so I'm going to come back to that in a moment, and I'll explain it more clearly in just a few seconds. Let's just get through this part. Part one is select a topic. District-wide focus. I'm a little more flexible about that than I probably should be, but I absolutely prefer to use a district premise rather than a building, unless it represents something that goes across the district in one way or another. Certainly got to be interested in. If you just pick something off, low-hanging fruit off a tree, it will reflect in the quality of your work. Pick something you care about. For heaven's sakes, you're here to learn these premises, these skills, and how to apply these, perhaps as a leader. And if you don't choose to be a leader, and some of you have said that to me, certainly you need to understand this perspective. And so you need to work with that as well. So we can't, either way, whatever mindset you bring to this, it's something you care about. Okay? And even though you're not wearing the stripe on your shoulder as a leader, we want you to pretend that you are as such. So if possible, select a topic that you believe your district would want to consider addressing. That kind of happens naturally. Then the next piece, and again, I can't highlight this for you, so you have to look at it this way. We're going to do some of that today. You need to design a needs assessment on that issue, which really is, for want of a better term, information gathering. And I have a PowerPoint I'm going to put up, probably use in a few minutes. I'll bring the PowerPoint up. I didn't bring it up yet. I'll have to look for it in among my things here. I just realized that. You need to do a needs assessment to get the information that you need to have. There's lots of reasons for this. Sometimes a problem that you think exists is not really anyone else's problem. Doesn't mean that you're incorrect. Your perception may be deeper than theirs, but it may also mean that you really are off base, that you don't have your arms around an issue that you think everyone else cares about. So you need to find out what's going on with that. Let me take the person who used, I could use any one of you. I'm sorry, I don't remember names all the time. I think it was a lady from either Baldwin or Valley Stream, might have been Valley Stream, who said, I deeply care about curriculum and instruction, as she knows that I do. And I deeply care about the gap in achievement between the English language learners achievement levels and the general population. I don't think anyone sent me this problem, but you could send me the same problem and take out the word English language learners and put in special needs kids. We could take out special needs kids and plug in the word disadvantaged youth. We could take, for that matter, we could take out all of those words to come back to the persons who are concerned about attendance and put the word attendance in there. Because now we're wondering, attendance folks, I think you're from Baldwin, not sure. Or maybe you were Massapequa. No, I think it was in Baldwin, who said, and understandably so, that the research shows that kids who don't come to school don't achieve well. There's the problem. Not totally, but there's the beginning of getting our arms around the elephant in the room. Now, and the attendance problem issue, and it really translates to so many other problems that you worry about. Somebody says social and emotional needs, clearly an issue that's erupted everywhere, from Montauk to Brooklyn, and from Brooklyn to Buffalo. It's and across the country. Certainly, there's an SEL, social and emotional learning pandemic. I use that term loosely. That's affected students and adults in so many ways that we can't even fathom them. What are they? Why do they have these problems? Well, it was COVID. You know, that's too easy to say. It wasn't COVID. COVID pricked the balloon, burst the balloon. The balloon was still there well before there was ever a COVID in our brains. Politicians will often tap into an anger or discontent that maybe other politicians have ignored or were not aware of at all, and play that note for those people who needed to hear it. And suddenly those people kind of say, well, yeah, no, someone's finally listening to me. I'm really angry about this, and this. The politician didn't create the need. The need was there. The politician pressed it forward. And so this is a complicated topic. Now, what you need to do is to get all the information you can get to bring that to bear. Now, first of all, I have to warn you, you're not doing the needs assessment. You're not doing the needs assessment. For those of you who are going forward to do the internship in school district administration, I have to presume all of you are, at least to do the internship, not necessarily pursue a position in order to pass the exam. But even that, you still need to take the course, the actual course, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure about that. You could go back to your cooperating administrator at district level and say, well, I'm willing to do an APA. Don't call it an APA. Say, I'm willing to do an investigation on this issue for the district. And the superintendent or whomever your cooperating teacher administrator would say, okay, here's some marching orders. Here's what I need you to do. You don't go here, don't go there, just go this way. And you do a needs assessment. Here comes sometimes the dirty 4-letter word. You gather the data, and both quantitative and qualitative, and we'll talk more about that in a few seconds. You gather the data, and then you go forward to make sense of the data, draw conclusions from the data, perhaps pull recommendations from the data. Now, here's what so many of you are doing. What you're doing is you're picking a topic. I'm going to say, for argument's sake, the attendance issue. Now, the attendance issue, as it mushrooms through all school districts in different forms. I'll give you a war story. I'm not going to tell you the district. I'm working with a district now on a consult that has a crazy attendance issues, especially in the high school. And it definitely affects their high school graduation rates, without any doubt. Now, during the pandemic, it just got worse because what was happening was, these kids were going to school or rather going to work where they could to make some money to help the family out, because the families were often in economic straits about. But the economy of the how the economy began to falter, and that's a polite word, during the pandemic's height. And so they're going to come to school, where they can make an extra $10 an hour making pizza. A lot of these kids were taking the second option for that reason, and then not really going to school. And the principal is a good guy, and staff, understaffed, but good people. They were taking the knocking on doors and kind of taking kids out by their ear, metaphorically, not actually, and getting them to school. And it didn't work. It wasn't like the kids were resisting it or hiding in their closet when the principal knocked on the door. It's because they couldn't spread themselves around adequately enough to make that happen. They had to get down to what was going on. They had to look at the economy, something that the district couldn't really control, although being partially by providing free lunches to these people who are in great need. What it kind of came down to when we began to boil it off, and it was a tough pill to swallow until they began to grudgingly acknowledge it. One of the major reasons, and there were many reasons, that's my point. One of the major reasons why these kids weren't coming to school in the high school was because the teachers were not great instructors. What do you mean? All teachers are John Dewey's. Well, sorry, Charlie, they're not. And some were just weren't teaching much more than what they had to do, lecturing like I'm doing now. And so these kids just weren't into it, or it didn't mean anything to them. Why would they care who won the War of 1812? Whoever cared about that for that reason? And I was a social studies teacher, except to understand the consequences of the War of 1812 and how they reverberated all through passing through the Civil War. And so if the teachers weren't asking the students to engage with the material or teaching it well, they said, heck with it, we'll go to work, we'll stay home. Different root cause than what we usually think about. And so really what we're talking about are root causes. A quick story, I tell this story in just about any course I teach, and it's about me. And it's a true story, but it's also a silly one. We've been living in the same house now, I think, for about 38 years, right? And when we first bought it, it was a small cape. We probably doubled the size of it. Still not a huge house, but it's much bigger than it was when we first got it. And the house was built, part of the house is over 100 years old, but most of it was built, I think, someplace in the early 60s. We've been living here for 38 years of that 60. Nicely built house. Can't complain about the structure of the house for the most part. Well, like I said before, I had 3 daughters, and back when they were all teenagers or young girls, and I'm being sexist, I know. There were times when that shower, we had 1 bathroom, that shower was running night and day. Ma, I'm taking a shower. Okay. And then a half hour later, are you coming out? Yeah, a little bit more. And that kind of thing. You've all heard the stories. And on top of that, my toilet, the one toilet in the house, would run a lot. Anyway, so every couple of months, the cesspool would overflow. Call the cesspool guy in. He would fix it. He would say, "I think it's your cesspool. Your toilet's running." I said, "Yeah, I know." Sometimes I, quite frankly, didn't have the money to fix things too, back in those days. And he said, "Well, why don't you get it fixed?" And he said, I would say, "Yeah, someplace in my house there's a screwdriver. I'm not handy, not one, but the only thing I'm kind of good at is teaching. Most think other things I'm not good at, and uh, I don't use tools real well. I just had to go buy a tool today to fix something that I couldn't fix what I was desperately trying to fix. So the toilet ran. The kids were using it. Kids were using the showers, overflowing the cesspool. It was a problem. Uh, Maybe 20 years ago, we finally got a little ahead of ourselves, and we decided to remodel the house. So we added a bathroom. Hello. Put a cesspool in the back. Hello. And we added a good chunk of new house to that. And then we added another chunk about 5 years ago, I guess. At any rate, we don't have cesspool problems anymore. Well, for one reason, they fixed the original toilet, and the other one actually was running for a while, and Grandpa fixed it because I went on YouTube and figured it out with YouTube's help. So my cesspools don't overflow. Now, why did the cesspool overflow? I just counted the six, waiting for your hands to go up. Well, I'll cut to the chase and say it really was because I was lazy and incompetent. Two bad combinations, aren't they? I was lazy and incompetent. Didn't know how to fix anything. Didn't want to fix anything, and was content with having the cesspool guy make a living off of me. It was easier to do that. That's the root cause. Not because the girls were running the showers. If the cesspools weren't being filled, was draining properly, it would have been fine. That's about what we call root causes. Several years ago, I know most of you were pretty young people, but you may remember when you were teenagers, not necessarily as adults. We had an economic collapse in 2008, and working for some smart people in the federal government to fine-tune some things and make some very strong, radical changes at the time. We would have had a severe depression, and who knows how life would have been in America if that hadn't been reversed. Not reversed, but slowed down is a better word. And the word on the street or in the newspapers on the cable channels was, "What's the root cause? What is the root cause? What's the root cause of this economic collapse?" And there was several, actually. Root cause being what lies beneath. Come back to that cultural premise we keep talking about, but in a slightly different context. What lies beneath is what you need to get at. If you have a bad cough, you go to a doctor. Doctor hopefully will do two things. One would be to try to find out why you are coughing, get at the source of the cough. I didn't cough for emphasis, I just coughed. I cough all the time. To look for the infection or the irritation that trips off the cough, to get to the root cause. The cough is a symptom of unhealth. It's not the cause of the unhealth. So I come back to you, attendance people, several of you, and you're concerned about whether parents are supporting you, or you're concerned about Regents exam scores, or you're concerned about any of those things. You're missing this, you're catching the symptoms, but you're not capturing the cause. That's what needs assessment spits out. More often than not, it's more than one. Now, here's a way to do it. All right, here we come now. Listen carefully. This is in one of the books we've offered for you as recommendations. It's called The Five Whys, WHY. When one asks, no, let me put it this way, you get all this information from the needs assessment. And then when you do the needs assessment, you have this information, you say, oh, it could be this, could be that, could be that. Someone says, why is this happening? Because if you research, if you properly ask a why question 5 times, you'll get the root cause. Let me give you a very simple example, and then we'll take it to another notch. And again, you're not here for me to work with me on this, so I'm kind of acting it out in front of you. Teacher brings a child in and says, Joey was late again today. He's been late XYZ times. Can you talk to him? Sure. Joey, sit down. What's going on, Joe? And nothing. Joey, why were you late today? I don't know. Why don't you know? Because I don't know. Why are you not sure that you know? Well, I guess it was because the alarm clock didn't go off. Why didn't the alarm clock go off? Well, my mother usually sets the alarm clock. Why wasn't the clock set? Because I'm going to 6 whys. Because they were having another fight. That's the root cause. It's called peeling back the layer. Why is there an attendance problem in school X, Y, Z? Because the kids aren't coming to school regularly. Why aren't they coming to school?
We found this on the web.
We don't care about that. Why aren't they coming to school? Well, they're not coming to school because they have other things to do. Why are the other things important to do? Because they have needs. Why are those needs interfering with coming to school? They're economic needs mostly, and they really don't make the choice between going to school, and making money for the family. Why is that a problem? Well, why would you? Well, a better way to put it: how would you look at that as a cause? I guess we need to make school more attractive to students. That's the cause. How would you make the schools more? We improve instruction. We create new programs. We do alternative schooling. Radical. That solves the problems. And so there's 2 things going on here in the same section as section 1. We'll skip section 3 for the moment. And that is, you get a topic, you have to figure out what is it about the topic you want to know more about, that you think may be an issue. That's one other thing I want to get to. You think about the topic that you think you want to get to, and then you try to do your needs assessment to find everything you needed to know about that particular issue. Then you squeeze it to a goal, and the goal has to be about the root cause, singular or plural. Now, in the case of a real true plan, it would be root causes, plural. But I think for your own sanity, one root cause is more than enough. But you can't do the root cause until you do the needs assessment. And you can't and once you do the needs assessment, you're able to do the goal. Now, here's a problem, because you're not going to do the needs assessment, actually. So you're going to sort of, I'll show you how to do this in a moment. You're going to create a needs assessment system. And then what you're going to do is you're going to, what's where I'm looking for, you're going to create your own goal, but a goal that captures the root cause, not captures a strategy. Now, so everybody makes the same mistake. Someone, author named Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner in economics, wrote a book a couple of years ago called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. And essentially said there's two kinds of thinking, fast and slow. And fast is easy and slow is hard. And people don't like to think slowly because it makes their hair hurt, no pun intended. And so what they do is they grasp the easy answers because it's not hard to think that way. Happens all the time. They call quick fixes. Senge calls those quick fixes, rather than looking at how to truly make sure that all the holes are plugged up and the dam really does hold the water back from the other side. So to roll that back one more time, you identify your issue, roughly speaking, so like a big fuzzy ball. Then you begin to shave that fuzzy thing to get down to it, or think of it as an onion. You begin to peel the onion back a bit, here, there, and everywhere, and then you begin to do a needs assessment to gather the information, and then you come up with a goal. Now, hear me on this. I'm shouting for emphasis. You don't solve the goal. Sorry, you don't solve the issue in the goal. You solve the goal with strategies. And we're not doing strategies today. This video will not be about strategies. Which brings you down over to part 3, because if you can see, we're starting to talk about this. What are the goals? Okay. And really, then what are the strategies? Now, let me show you what I mean really quickly. We're going to stop this share. Keep messing this up. What am I trying to do? Stop the share. There you go. I'm going to bring in a quick template. Now, we're going to use this template for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to just keep adding to it. I'm going to call it a strategic APA plan. Now, there's a difference between strategic and operational. Strategic plan is usually 3 years or more. Think of it on that count. What I'm going to do is insert a table. I'm just going to keep adding to this every week. Where is table? Table. So we're going to have a goal. And we're going to have strategies. And we're going to have a timetable. And we're going to have persons responsible. And we're going to have obstructions. And we're going to have resources. And we're going to add a column. We're going to have criteria for completion. All right, so what we're doing today is showing how you get a goal. And the goal is a result of needs assessment. All right. So for example, maybe you just want to get the information. Maybe you want to say, recognize five, I can't spell today, 3 reasons for high absentee rate. Out you go. Now, in order to, I'm not going to write that in here because the boxes get too silly. In order to make this smaller again, so we can see it. Come up with strategies. In other words, we're talking about ideas that will meet the goal. Now, the first goal, this is the first strategy, rather, for everybody, is uniform. Don't change this, is to do the needs assessment. That's the first thing you do. Everybody's going to use the same strategy. Strategy number 1 is needs assessment. Okay, the next thing is when. When are you going to do this? I'm not going to fill these things in today. When are you going to do this? Tomorrow? Yesterday? Next week? Next fall? By when? Who does it? Who crunches the data? Who draws inferences from the data? What could go wrong? I don't know, maybe I can't get all the data I need. I may have to get more. Or maybe people resist me. Or maybe I'm not sure how to go about doing this. What are the possible obstructions? What do I need to do this? Well, I need time. I need people who know how to do data, crunch data. I need wills. I need strong will and support. And I need money to do this. Money is always, in an ordinary plan, you put down, I need $17,102. Something like that. But you're not going to do anything like that at all. And the next question is, how would you know that the needs assessment worked? I'm going to say proper information. Valid information is a better word. Wow, I can't spell today. Yeah, let's just don't do this one for tomorrow, for this next week or so, but like at least. But in here, so what would be a second, another strategy? Another strategy might be to provide more free and reduced lunch. Because you would find out that the people who aren't coming, children who aren't coming to school, are the children who are poorer than the other children. I'm just making that. I'm not saying that's a great strategy. I'm just saying it's a potential strategy. And that's how you go about doing this. Okay, I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to, because I don't want, and then I'm going to bring up that needs assessment video, PowerPoint I mentioned, post that in a second video in a moment, so that you have you'll have 2 videos to watch this week. And start sending me things. Start sending me things.